Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in a Year 2021. We are on day 171, and we're doing the second part of Ecclesiastes, chapters 7 to 12. And so just as I did yesterday, just a little preamble, and I really advise that you need to be in a good position with the Lord as you read through this. Because this is the result of somebody who had a good relationship with the Lord and got distracted and went in a different direction and lost the source of life, really. Lost the source of wisdom and the light that was in him. And it's an expression of a lot of dark places he ended up going to. So we understand the Proverbs, which we still haven't finished with yet, but Proverbs was written when he was in a good place. It was compiled later, but the Proverbs that were written were when Solomon had a good relationship with the Lord. And Ecclesiastes was written closer to the end of his life, another set of Proverbs, but the darker set. And some people would say, well, it's more reality. Well, no, maybe it's more fitting coming from a place in this world, a place of darkness and lostness and despair. But that's not where we belong, those who belong to Yahweh. And so we can see that this is the fruit, this is the result of someone who wandered away. There's still a lot to learn here, but the biggest lesson is the condition we suffer when we lose our connection. So jumping into chapter 7 then, in verse 2, we find something that's true but not true, because there can be truth it can be spoken, but from a slant that it gives it just a wrong dimension. And so we read, "It is better to go to a house in mourning than to a party house or house party, because that is everyone's destiny, and the living should take it to heart." Now, it is everyone's destiny, and the living should take it to heart. You should consider that life is, fragile. It is, and nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. We have today, but that doesn't mean that we have to be in a place of mourning. We're supposed to be in a place of joy, in a place of celebration. We celebrate life. Death is a part of that life. And for those who are in Christ, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. That's where we live. That's who we are. And so, yeah, so there is a bit of truth here, but it's not our perspective, and it's not where we live. Definitely not. Again, another thing's true, but not. In verses 13 to 14, considers God's work. Who can straighten what God has made crooked? When times are good, enjoy the good. When times are bad, consider God has made the former as well as the latter, so that people can't discover anything that will come to be after them. Well, there's some truth here, but just be careful. It is true that whatever God creates, okay, we can't. His design, his purposes, nothing will frustrate his will. Either we're part of that will or we're not. If we're not part of it, then he'll use another means to bring about his will. Whether we talk to somebody or not, he will bring somebody to talk to that person. It's always good to be part of his will. It's always good to walk in that thing. It's always good to be involved in what he's doing. It lends to us. It gives us great joy. It brings us great pleasure, but also a fellowship and understanding of what Father's heart is and what he's doing. So yeah, again, just be cautionary here. Let's turn the page. Okay, in chapter 7, verses 21 to 22, don't worry about all the things people say, so you don't hear your servant cursing you. After all, you know that you've often cursed others yourselves. Now, This I use as a cautionary tale for all parents, because when I was growing up, I could hang out with my friends and I could say whatever I want, and my parents would never find out. So that's the place where we would often complain about our parents or complain about situations. We complain to each other. That's what we would do as friends. But today, where most youth do their complaining, there's records and parents can access those things. And I know you want to keep them safe, but also at the same time, just consider what it would have been like if everything you said had been recorded, everything you had said that your parents heard. How would they have felt? And it's best to give children some space and not worry so much about the things that they say. You don't want to hear them. You don't want to hear them cursing you. They will get past it. It's in the moment at that time, and they will grow out of it. You grew out of it. You love your parents now. You appreciate them, even if they were not the greatest parents. There's being a parent now. You understand what it was like for them. And if somebody's listening to this and you are not yet a parent, then just trust me. You will come down to understand your parents as you've never understood them before. And it's just best. Don't eavesdrop. Don't listen into every conversation. Don't, protect your kids. But at the same time, you got to give them that room to complain and to grow out of those things. I hope you'll take that to heart. It may save you a lot of heartache. Verse 29, there's truth here. See this alone I found. God made human beings straightforward, but they search for many complications. Solomon is speaking from his own heart on this. We've been made. We were created for a very simple thing: fellowship with the Lord, for relationship with the Lord. Is really straightforward. It's straightforward that he wants us to be a recipient of all of his grace, all of his mercy, all of his kindness, all of his love, all of his blessings. He wants us to receive that. But we find ways to make it complicated. We do. We find ways to make it hard. We make our paths difficult. And if you're willing to be honest about that, I think you'll find that to be true. In verse 15 of chapter 8. So I commend enjoyment, because there's nothing better for people to do under the sun but to eat, drink, and be glad. This is what will accompany them in their hard work during the lifetime that God gives under the sun. Now, if you read the preamble to this, if you read the things before this, Solomon is talking about all the injustices, all the wrong things, all the unfairness that there is in the world. But we find contentment in the Lord. We find contentment in what he has given to us. We find contentment in this, and we know that he is the one who looks after justice. And he may call us into situations where he would have us administer his justice, as in bring blessings to people who have been shortchanged, like widows and orphans and immigrants, right? That we are supposed to bless. We're supposed to bring his blessing into their life. So that they feel his justice. But we ourselves, we should always find contentment in him. Eat, drink, and be glad. He provides. He's our provider. He has provided us stuff to drink. He has provided us stuff to eat. He wants us to be glad. He wants us to be filled with all of his blessings. So, no matter what's going on, don't lose that position. Don't lose that place. And verse 18, this is hard for us to accept. I observe all the work of God. I observed all the work of God, that no one can grasp what happens under the sun. Those who strive to know can't grasp it. Even the wise who are set on knowing are unable to grasp it. We can't know everything. We can't know everything that Yahweh knows. There is mystery. There's profound mystery. There's always going to be mystery involved. And your position of faith is going to have to carry you through those times of mystery, those times where you don't have answers for things, because it's bigger probably than what your mind can possibly grasp. Who knows? I'm not going to come up with any doctrine on that. It's just that I understand there's going to be mysteries. No one can grasp what happens under the sun. We can't. So we trust him. That's the relationship he's called us to, and that's the relationship we live in, is a relationship of trust, because he is good, because we're convinced he is good. We can trust him. Now, here's a condition of people without Christ. In chapter 9, verse 3, this is the sad thing about all that happens under the sun. The same fate awaits everyone. Moreover, the human heart is full of evil. People's minds are full of madness while they are alive, and afterward they die. And that's going to be so sad, because a relationship with Jesus brings us so much contentment, brings us so much hope, brings us so much joy, brings us so much fulfillment. And unfortunately, the human condition is such that it will always move towards evil and selfishness. And we know there's a lot of good people out there. And just imagine how much what they would be with Christ. But at the same time, there's still that tendency to go in that direction. So just keep that in mind. In verses 9 and 10, my question is, depressed much? That's, what I want to say to Solomon. Look at this. Enjoy life with your dearly loved spouse all the days of your pointless life that God gives you under the sun. Yeah, there's no point to your life, right? Yeah, we are born with destiny. So again, enjoy life with your dearly loved spouse all the days of your pointless life that God gives you under the sun, all the days of your pointless life, because that's your part to play in this life and in your hard work under the sun. Whatever you are capable of doing, do with all your might, because there's no work, thought, knowledge, or wisdom in the grave, which is where you are headed. Wow, that is so encouraging, isn't it? Wow. I mean, there's truth in this. There's such wonderful, exciting truth in this, but the perspective is just in the wrong direction, and it's ugly and heavy, and just And when we spoke earlier of the fragility of life, and we see here again in chapter 9, verses 11 to 12. I also observed under the sun that the race doesn't always go to the swift, nor the mighty, or the battle to the mighty, nor food to the wise, nor wealth to the intelligent, nor favor to the knowledgeable, because accidents can happen to anyone. People most definitely don't know when their time will come. Like fish tragically caught in a net, or like birds trapped in a snare, so are human beings caught in a time of tragedy that suddenly falls to them. And again, I say, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If you think it's all over, with the grave, then this is really sad. But when you know that it's just the best is just coming, then there's no fear in this. Yeah, you're not afraid of being hit by a car. You're not afraid of a satellite falling on your head. You're not afraid of a disaster that could hit. We prepare every day as if it's our last day, and that's okay, because the best is yet to come. That's how we live. Chapter 10, verse 10. Think about this. If an axe is dull and one doesn't sharpen it first, then one must exert more force. It's profitable to be skillful and wise. Yeah, so there's something right there. You could probably make it through life, being able to work minimum wage jobs, but when you gain skills, whether in higher education or in trades, and tradespeople make more money than a lot of educated people, I'll tell you that. And higher educated, I mean, like, you know what I mean, okay? People who are degreed so that they can be of some worth. They may never get into the field that they want to get into, but there's always a place for skilled workers. And yeah, just consider that. There's profit in it. There's profit in it. Who doesn't want to be paid $50 an hour, right, for your time, compared to, $14, $15 an hour? When they're talking about raising the minimum wage to a whole $15 an hour, what is that compared to somebody who's gone to school and has become skilled in their field and is bringing in $35, $40, $50 an hour? There's wisdom here. Verse 17. Happy is the land whose king is dignified, whose princes feast at the right time for energy, not for drunkenness. Now, can we take this and apply it to the kingdom? We're referred to as kings and queens. So obviously we're like princes and princesses, if you want to put it that way, in the kingdom. Now, our king is definitely dignified, and our king pours out all that bounty upon the kings and queens under him. But we have to have the wisdom to know that those things have a purpose. Those blessings have a purpose, and not for our, not for gluttony, not for drunkenness, not for indulgent. It's for enjoyment. We get to enjoy life, but at the same time, we are given so much that it flows through and into the lives around us. Yeah, keep that in mind. Chapter 11, verse 4. Yeah, I hate to be negative, but sometimes I think this verse can apply to the church. Those who watch the wind blow will never sow, and those who observe the clouds will never reap. Now, what do I mean by that? How do I mean that applies to the church? Sometimes I think we're so busy in building our church and building our programs, building everything else, we lose the focus that it's about friendship. It's about relationships. It's not about weak relationships. It's about deep relationships, about relationships where you wouldn't hesitate to lay your life down for a friend, where you would sacrifice for anybody. It's not about building a church community. It's about building the kingdom. And in the kingdom, it's built upon relationships. It's rocks that are fitted together to form that temple. That's what the kingdom is all about. And sometimes we pay lip service with no rubber on the road. And this is where I think we need revival. We need revival in this thing, that it's about those relationships. Something to consider. Here we find a sound advice in verse 9. Rejoice, young person, while you are young. Your heart should make you happy in your prime. Follow your heart's inclinations and whatever your eyes see, but know this, God will call you to account for all these things. In other words, he's giving you, if you are young, he's giving you all the things that you need so that you can glorify him, so he can be glorified in you, so that you can gain those skills and build a life that honors him. And he's given that to you. But if you take that and waste it and indulge yourself on it and become a glutton on those things, you will be held accountable for that. And Jesus makes that very clear on many different occasions. And then we get to the last chapter, finally. Verses 1 to 2. Remember your Creator in your prime, before the days of trouble arrive. This kind of goes with what we just said. And those years about which you'll say, I take no pleasure in these, before the sun and the light grow dark, the moon and the stars too, before the clouds return after the rain. Anyway, it goes on. Yeah, I guess it's a way of describing the latter part of the aging process. Okay, establish that relationship when you are young. Establish that testimony when you are young. Make sure your faith is grown while you are young, because it's a lot harder to do when you're longer in the tooth. There's a lot of things that are involved in aging There are declining things that happen when you're aging. Your mind is sharp, but it's not as sharp as when you were young. I mean, as much as you can do things to slow down the aging process and to age well, to age gracefully, a lot of people don't. I'll tell you, a lot of people don't engage in aging gracefully. They don't make adjustments. They still try to act as if they're 20. And in doing so, they lose the skills to be able to grow gracefully old. And it's to understand. It's to understand the process. It's to understand what's going on so that you can be the very best that you can be at every age. And when you gain those skills when you're young, man, they're intact. They're in place when you're older. That's not saying that you can't do well when you're older, when you come to Christ at a later age, but it's that much better when you build that life when you're younger. If you build muscles and you're really well fit and you stay fit throughout the years, you're going to be strong in your old age. If you're like 55 and 60 and you decide that you're losing too much muscle and you need to, you can stop the process. You can even gain some muscle back, but it'll be nothing compared to what if you had done that throughout your life. That's what it's like spiritually with the Lord, building those spiritual muscles. That's what we need to do. The sooner we start on that, the better it will be. And so then we come to this conclusion. After all of this, we come to this conclusion in verses 12 to 14. There's no end to the excessive production of scrolls. Yeah, it's kind of, scripture talks about that. It's always studying, but never learning. There's no end to the excessive production of scrolls. We can write books. Man, do we write books? We write books upon books upon books upon books upon books. There's so much knowledge out there. But he says studying too much wearies the body. Why? Because you got to put it into practice. You got to listen. You can sit and read all the physical fitness articles that there are in books, and you can read about all kinds of programs. You're just going to weigh yourself down and you're going to become weary. Just pick something and do it. Just pick something and do it. Okay. So Solomon says, after all of his studying, everything else, after worrying himself in all of this, so this is the end of the matter. All has been heard. Worship God and keep God's commandments, because this is what everyone must do. Why must everyone do it? Because, see, doing it God's way is for your benefit. It's not just that he's going to reward you because you're doing it his way. Doing it his way allows those blessings to flow. There's natural benefits to doing it his way. There's spiritual benefits to doing it his way. There's physical health. There's mental health. There's emotional health. There's spiritual health, doing it his way, because it's according to the master's plan. It's according to the creator's plan. He designed us. He knows how we work. He knows what is best for us in this hostile environment in which we live. He knows how to direct our path. He knows what we need. So we do it his ways, and it'll go well for us. God will definitely bring every deed to judgment, including every hidden thing, whether good or bad. So that's his conclusion. That's a lot. That's heavy. There's a lot of stuff in there. Try to spend more time in Proverbs than in Ecclesiastes, but there is stuff to learn here, and I hope that you've gained some stuff in your reading. And you might need to go take a good spiritual shower to get just rid of anything that wants to linger there, and let's just enjoy the Lord today. Let's laugh a lot today, and let's clap our hands and lift our holy hands and worship him, and be generous and buy something for somebody. Purposely go through a Tim Hortons drive-through today and pay for the purchase behind you. Just do that. Just do a little thing. Just be generous. Give something away. See somebody on the street, whether it's a window cleaner or somebody holding up a sign asking for help, or whether it's just somebody sitting on the side of the street, give them the change out of your pocket. Just be generous today, and just see how that will lift your spirits, because it's who our Father is. So be blessed, be encouraged, and I will see you tomorrow as we continue the timeline of Solomon.